Second leg quarterfinal action in the Jamaica Premier League kicks off in just under half an hour at Sabina Park in Kingston as we welcome you back to the SportsMax Zone. In the first leg, Arnett Gardens came from behind to draw 1-1 with Harbour View. The clash between defending champions Cavalier and Mount Pleasant Academy ended goalless. Just a reminder, Waterhouse and the Dunbeholden have automatic spots in these semi-finals by virtue of being the top two teams from the regular season. Donald Oliver and Chris Taylor are at Sabina Park and have our preview.
Gentlemen, quarterfinal second leg action here at Sabina Park, and we're anticipating two really good matches. The champions are going to be involved in the first leg, Cavalier against Mount Pleasant, and we hope that's a better encounter than what we saw in the first leg right here at Sabina Park. Chris, not a lot to write home about in that first leg. It's almost as if both teams were pretty much on pause as they anticipated the second leg.
Yeah, half asleep, certainly a flat performance initially, but a few chances evolved, and this was Dwayne Atkinson's best chance of the game. A man who has scored about 3 goals or 4 goals in as many matches and scored overseas in the club championship as well, but couldn't find himself on the score sheet.
But talk to me about Mount Pleasant and their mindset headed into this second leg.
Well, they're going in with an unchanged team, and you'd think with the likes of Trevante Stewart and Daniel Green, two of the most potent players this season, Daniel Green leading the JPL charts, that they will find a way to get a goal in this and find the back of the net. Both looked off key, especially Trevante Stewart in the first leg, as so did many of these 22 players on the park. So we're hoping for a much better performance here and a good surface at Sabina Park.
We've spoken so many times about the record that they have against Cavalier, just winning 1 match in 11 games now. Cavalier, on the other hand, it seems as if they're going a little bit more attacking. What do you make of what they'll offer in the second leg?
I think Cavalier will have a better team coming into this. A few changes expected as well, the likes of Kenroy Campbell. I expect Ronaldo Webster to start, so that will be looking better for them. They're stalwart in the middle of in the back line. Richard King, the national representative, he's back from injury, so it should be a stronger Cavalier team coming out who, as we said, have dominated this Mount Pleasant outfit over the years. As you said, just one victory for Mount Pleasant in 11 attempts now.
Well, the second match is also a game that we're looking ahead to. It's a big match, Arnett Gardens against Harbour View, and we're locked level at this one as well. Your thoughts on what you expect in this second leg?
Well, Arnett Gardens ended the game the stronger team. I thought they took a little while to get going. I think they've really been suffering without the likes of Ronaldo Cephas in terms of the wing trickery that he brings, and of course the goals. 10 goals, it's hard to replace that. So I thought they were a bit narrow going forward, Arnett Gardens, and they generally enjoy the width. A chain formation with Ezra and Simpson at the back line, as we can see here, I don't think it helped Arnett Gardens, so I expect some form of rotation to happen. That being said, Harbour View started the game very well, excellent tempo, but then fell away towards the back end, and that would be disappointing for Ludlow Bernard. But considering he has had no luck against Arnett Gardens, one win in 15 matches against Arnett Gardens, I think he would take the draw in the first leg.
Yeah, he would have, but he would have been disappointed that they missed several chances in this one, because they could have put this game away.
They could have lost this game as well, as I said.
True.
A couple chances, especially in the first half. Colorado Morris should have doubled the lead nearing the end of the first half. You know, he's been potent this season with 6 goals. This was the penalty we're seeing here. But Arnett Gardens, towards the back end of the game, had quite a few half chances that probably they should have stole all 3 points.
Yeah, Trayvon Reed scoring from about 12 yards there, and of course the equalizer coming from Marlon Allen, who has been instrumental in the absence of one Ronaldo Cephas this season.
Yeah, 10 goals for Marlon Allen, as I said, the 20-year-old from Ocho Rios High. He has been excellent for Arnett Gardens, but again, both himself and Fabian Reed, central players. And that's the problem, that they don't really have that wide option. We didn't see the likes of Stevie Clark in the squad in the first leg. I don't know if we'll see him today. We haven't seen Damari Deacon in a while. Those two players will add a lot for the width of Arnett Gardens, which I think they need. That's part of their strength. But yeah, Marlon Allen was excellent. The way he fought for this ball against Shamari Dyer showed his strength. And then look at this finish, right through the hands of Anthony Bennett. He had no chance.
I'm expecting a decent match between these two teams. But of course, the first game of the doubleheader, Cavalier against Mount Pleasant, I reckon there's so much pressure on Mount Pleasant because they've invested so much. How would they not be making a semi-final of the Jamaica Premier League? So much pressure on the coaching staff. Quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, lots of pressure. Good that they're going in with an unchanged team. I find it hard to believe that they would play 2 games badly back-to-back on the same surface. Yeah, so they're going in with a lot of potency up front, but I like Cavalier's chances. The history talks to Cavalier, and the changes that Cavalier have made will make their side even stronger and more potent up front, especially with the pace of Kenroy Campbell coming in as well.
Lance, George, that's it from us here at Sabina Park.
Donald, Chris, we're going to turn it over to hear from the two coaches of the respective teams. Cavaliers, Rudolph Speed, the technical director, and Nicky Eden, the man guiding Mount Pleasant.
Coach, Cavalier usually has a very good record against Mount Pleasant. It appeared to me that both teams didn't really show up in the first leg, but now it's serious business.
No, we did show up, but we were a little bit wary because we were not sure what they were going to offer. Changing their formation during the season, it was difficult for us to really pinpoint what they were going to do, and so we were really just looking.
How are you more prepared then for this second leg?
Oh, definitely. And also, if you notice, it's the first time of 20 players for like 2 months or 3 months. So today I have more staff to work with.
Having said that, what have you been doing during the week to prepare for the second leg?
Well, not much because we just got a couple of days. So we rest the first day. We did some recovery work the other day. So not much. We're just trying to focus the players. We look at what we should be doing in this match and we work on it. And so that's what we're going to try and execute today.
And what's players' mentality at this point in time?
Oh, very good. Very, very good. There's a return of a couple of players which we had missed in the first leg, so we'll hope that will be able to carry us over.
And as champions, is there any pressure on them at all as they prepare for this second leg?
Oh, there's always pressure for you being the champion, but I mean we have an even younger team than last year. It's going to be more difficult this year because team is younger, and also we won't be able to rest. We have to be playing, during the week and not weekends.
And what are you expecting from this Mount Pleasant squad? Oh,
they are going to put up a good fight. It's a tough team. They are difficult to break down, and they change the system which make it even more difficult. So we understand what we are up against.
There seems to be a level of expectation that comes with Mount Pleasant, and I'm wondering how the players react to that, especially after that performance in the first leg. How are you expecting them to improve for the second leg?
They're focused, they're up for it. We've come across it all season when teams raise the game against us, so we're used to that. I'm not sure it's the same with Cavalier because they're a strong team themselves.
What have you been telling your players during this week? Because of course you don't have the best record against Cavalier. So what have you been telling them, encouraging them this week?
The past's in the past. With a different team, we've got even from the start of the season, we've probably got 4 or 5 different players in. The bedding in a lot better now. And I keep reminding them, the 3-1 game at Drax. What we did wrong, basically. And how we can improve on that.
What have you learned from the first leg?
That Cavalier are a good team. We knew that before we went into the game, but we've shown that we can more than compete with them. I felt we had, I didn't want to get beat in the first leg because you don't want to come into the second leg trailing, but I thought we could have, on chances, we could have nicked it possibly, but come into this full of confidence.
Yeah, so Nick Eden there, the last coach to speak, guiding Mount Pleasant, and Rudolph Speed saying that it's the first time in months that he's had a 20-man roster to choose from, and that's why he's going into this game, Lance, very confident of getting the result that he needs.
Yeah, and as defending champions, Cavalier will have a lot going for them as far as their confidence levels are concerned, so I wouldn't want to write them off. Mount Pleasant, though, George, is such a quality team based on its roster that it's a difficult game to call. It's just a matter of who turns up better on the day to perform, because both of them were lousy on Monday. Absolutely lousy. I watched the game and I don't think that I had seen any of those two teams play as badly on Monday before as they did on Monday. So I would expect that both would improve now that we are down to a do or die situation. A hard one to call. You know what, though? I'm giving Mount Pleasant the edge based on their roster and their hunger for success. I know they're a new team, George, but they have been playoff semi-finalists every year since they came into the Premier League 2018-2019, and in the aborted season they were number 2 to Waterhouse in the regular season when COVID-19 scuppered the season. And I just think that it's Mount Pleasant's time now to deliver something special.
Yeah, the Mount Pleasant boys have been very well taken care of by the football club, the football club side of the academy. They really need to repay the faith that has been invested in them, and the financial investment, the outlay to bring them to Mount Pleasant, to give them conditions to play in, train for football that are arguably better than every other club in Jamaica, perhaps every other club in the history of local football in Jamaica, because I struggle to think of any setup that we've had, even in the 70s when the Premier League just started, that was as organized, that was as reliable as this. We spoke Tuesday when we played the Mount Pleasant feature that Brian Pitcher did. We spoke about the Mount Pleasant Academy project and how expansive that was, and how it is that the money that has come into Mount Pleasant, we've seen big money come into football, but that big money leaving fast. The Mount Pleasant money is here to stay, so the players aren't wondering, oh, will we get paid next month? These are conditions that every player in Jamaica would want to be playing in. They have those, they must deliver, but Cavalier have been underperforming all season because of all sorts of problems that they've had, and the commitments with the CONCACAF champions, club championships and everything else, and being undermanned in terms of his playing roster. He has a maximum playing roster now. I think Rudolph Speed has strong grounds on which to be confident. Look, I want a very good game. Cavaliers defending champions. It would look good for the league if they could go back to a second consecutive final. But it would be tremendously positive thing for Mount Pleasant to finally take the next step into a final and then play for a championship. Because like yourself, I really think that this Mount Pleasant project needs to be rewarded with a championship, but it doesn't come free. The players have to play for it. In the second quarterfinal rather, Arnett Gardens against Harbour View. Paul Teagat-Davis lamented in the press here this week that his team only played one half of football. He said they were non-existent in the first half. Harbour View were first to everything. Harbour View made Arnett rush and give away the ball, and Harbour View bossed the game, and he said his team was lucky to go in level at the break. He did credit his team for turning up in the second half, and he said, look, all we have to do, give me that second half energy, give me that second half hunger, pass the ball as well as you did in the second half, play at the tempo as you did as high as you did in the second half, and I'd be happy and we'll be fine. He said, we will win. Are you believing, Teagat, that Arnett will win today?
Yeah, I think I would pick Arnett to win this fixture. They have had a far more solid season than Harbour View has had. Harbour View's performances throughout the season, George, have been fluctuating. You know, one game they may play fairly well, and then for 2 or 3 or even 4 games they just don't show much. I know these are playoff times now, so what happened in the regular season is history. It has no bearing on what is happening now. And the coaching tactics could be very critical here. I just think that Arnett's roster is more dynamic, and they've scored, I think, 7 goals in their last 3 matches, Arnett Gardens. Harbour View have struggled to score goals consistently, and I would take Arnett to win here, based on their offensive strength.
Yeah, Trayvon Reed is going to be a trump card for Harbour View, as he was in that first game. Faded as the game went on when his team had to do more defending, but he has the talent by himself to hurt this Arnett Gardens team, and they'll better keep very strong tabs on him. You know, Marlon Allen is having the kind of season that players at every level of football dream of having. This is his first season at this level of football, and the way he plays his football, you would know that by looking at him, because he plays as if he's been here for a long time, and his goal in that first leg was very impressive. He's a man brimming with confidence, and he'll want to drag this Arnett Gardens team over the line and into the final, and to a clash with Waterhouse in that semi-final.
Yeah, and George, one of the things that highlighted this current Premier League season in Jamaica is how, well, it started from last year, is how some of the youngest players in the league have shown themselves to be ready for the job. You know, there was a time when a lot of coaches would not trust a 20-year-old with major duties in his team's plan and the strategy for games in the Premier League. Now it's becoming commonplace. We see young players now winning Golden Boot awards from last year with Okwasa Chung and Shaquille Bradford. among the top scorers in the league this year are some young players. Marlon Allen had an injury issue, so he missed some games, but he's one of the most prolific players in the league at the moment, only 20 years old, and a player with a lot of quality. So I'm very pleased in the 2021 season, and we've seen it again in 2022, with some of the young talent, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, playing big man football, and as it should be, because in the more developed countries in world football, 19, 20-year-olds are not considered young. Yeah. They're already professionals and playing at the top level.
Yeah, it's something we spoke about at the start of this season, about how young the Premier League was. I made the point that if you compare this season and the average age of the squads which began this season, you would find that this season's squads on an average age are younger than most of the league competitions that we would have played top flight football in Jamaica over time since the Premier League started in 1973. What is also true is that the opportunities that the coaches are willing to give to young players these days, because of the opportunities because of the prospects for these players on the other side. So players and clubs and coaches rather, are encouraged to give the youth a chance, because this is the man that could be sold for £100,000 and bring vitally needed US dollars, or £1,000, $100,000 and bring vitally needed revenue into the squad, into the club, to sustain you, keep you going as a going concern. So there's a lot of incentive to do that. I want to say this though. Yeah. You have many people, and I mean, there's nobody better placed than you to discuss this point with. A lot of people like to say that the Premier League in Jamaica, that there were there were times in the past when the Premier League was oh so strong, and the football that is being played now in the Premier League is rubbish and everything else. Here's what I will say to that. As someone who grew up listening to all of the Premier League football I knew, the Premier League football as described on radio by the commentators, it gives and it evokes a sense, an exalted sense of reality to the listener, I would say. And if people had the chance, as they do now, to watch each game and criticize everything as they did then maybe the sepia-tinted glasses that people are looking through to say, oh, the football in the 80s was much better, the teams were much better, the players were much better, as it was in the 90s, I would say that it is pretty much par, because I can't think that the football that we were playing at another time was so much better than the football we're having now, because I'd say, well, why was there no throughput to the quality of the national team, and why was there no throughput in terms of players going elsewhere to play professional football, when it was easier back in the decades gone by to find yourself in another country playing in their top flight competition.
Easier than now, George?
Yes, because guess what? Yes, because there was a time, you would recall, before FIFA instituted that the country had to have a particular rank for players to sign. So for instance, in the EU, for instance, in other jurisdictions where the football is at an advanced professional level, because you have different levels of professionalism. Yeah. Before FIFA mandated that John Tom from X country, his country had to have a FIFA rank of X in order for you to be able to go into another country's league. That has not been a forever situation. That has been, well, not recent, because it's been a long-standing thing. But before that, it was the route into some of these markets outside of Jamaica, outside of TNT, outside of Barbados. It was easier for players to access those places, to get a leg up and go further. Not so now because of the FIFA stipulations and the EU rules, which are banning the mass influx of players into the EU, into these spaces, unlike what happened before.
Yeah, but George, to be fair, at the moment, with the advanced situation with agents and so on, players have a lot more avenues to present themselves to professional units outside of the Caribbean. And I would think that the opportunities are elevated now compared to then. And the point you made earlier on about, and well, I was one of the radio commentators that you'd have been talking about that made the game sound exciting. But how would you then explain, George, forget radio commentary now, how would you then explain fans getting excited in the 1980s and 90s, excited in a way that they are not now, to go to see Walter Boyd and Winston Anglin and Hector Wright and Theodore Whitmore? Wouldn't that suggest to you that those players excited the fans more than they are now?
Here's what
which boils down to them being better.
Here's how I'll answer that. And Mr. Producer, just bear with us a little bit.
Yeah.
I explain that this way. The fan nowadays has a mobile phone with Netflix and 300 TV shows that he can watch. He has 12 apps that can give him basketball replays. He has YouTube that he can go and watch old World Cup games, old European Championship games, old friendly internationals. He can watch music videos, whatever. The entertainment offerings are endless. So for someone to get up and go to a football game and form a bond with the football, as happened in the past when there was one TV station in Jamaica and the majority of the nation didn't have colored television, those who had television had to make do with the one station, which carried one football game per week. Football International, Sundays at 3 o'clock, after, in search of, and before Ian Boyne's profile. That's when that's the slot the football used to come in. Yeah? So I'm saying, that time, it was an incentive for you to go to the football ground and watch a Premier League game, and you would bond over the players, and you would go back in your community, and rather than go back in your community and pick up your mobile phone and go on a website or go on an app, you would sit down with the players, with their neighbors, and you'd talk about the football. Lance, I grew up in a situation, every evening after the football game was played, little boys would sit away from the big men, and we'd listen to the big men talk about the players that had gone before and how wonderful they did and the things they did and how he took the ball out of the air and spun 360 or 280 and slammed it into the net, and they spoke about these players and these plays every day and mythologized it, and it became almost reality by how they spoke of it. That culture is gone, and that connection that the fans have to the football is gone, and that is why people are nonchalant about the football now. People are not coming to watch Cephas accelerate away from two defenders and leaving them for dead. If it was in the olden days, we'd be on a street corner in Spanish Town, in Old Harbour, in Linstead, somewhere talking about, when Cephas left the two players, and we would add to the legend, add to the myth, make it become greater.
You're making a good point, and it's a discussion that needs to be had. But I would put this to you, George. And I understand the point you're making. But interview now a 60-year-old Arnett Gardens fan and tell that 60-year-old Arnett Gardens fan that there are players in the current Arnett Gardens setup that were better and excited him more than Billy Das and Herbert Richards and Prince O'Rain and players like those. That to me is an indication that fan believes that those players were better than these now.
Well, what I'd say about that fan is that fan went through the process I just described, and that fan romanticized the football and romanticized the players.
That's oversimplifying it, George. I'm not sure they're romanticizing it. This is what they saw, George. They saw this.
But it can't be oversimplification when the romanticization is evidence in the example I gave that the plays that they saw, the players that they saw were part of their discussions every single day at work, at home, every week, every time, every day. And remember, they didn't see a lot of football. No, we're oversaturated with football. There's football everywhere.
Let me wind up by asking you this question. Do you think there is any player now out of Montego Bay, St. James, better than Hector Wright or Theodore Whitmore?
Well, those two, absolutely no. Absolutely. Okay. Right on this day in sports?
Yes.
No.
Well, that's the point, George.
No. Remember.
Yes.
You have to remember where we started this conversation. I didn't assert that it is a write-off. I said it is
balanced.
Mishmash. It is much and mooch. Yeah, there you go. And I said that nobody's better placed to make a definitive, a declaratory statement on that than you are, because you did it on radio. You've seen it for 30, 40 years, yeah? I'm just coming relatively and seeing it and enjoying it, and I'm saying it can't be that the players are so worthless now.
I'm not saying they're worthless. No, I'm not saying they're worthless. I'm not saying that at all, to be honest. I think they're very, very good players now.
But Lance, I'm saying again, even a horse race, and Mr. Producer, just give us 30 seconds. There's 30 seconds. I'm saying the way the oldsters spoke about certain rides and how certain horses ran. Lance, I watched the tapes. It's not like they told me when I was a boy. I watched it for myself and I said, so this is what you're crazy about. This is he lifted up the horse and pushed it over the line and he did this, and you watch the race yourself and you're saying, that's all I'm saying. Romanticization. Myths and legends. In search of Sunday. JBC.
Break time.
Break. Thank you for watching SportsMax on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay informed.